Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great weekend out there so far. It is September the 1st. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty excited about that. I think me and my family are going to bring down the fall decorations from the attic later this afternoon, even though the weather's not going to feel like fall, at least here in my neck of the woods here in South Carolina. But certainly, always a very exciting time of the year, September 1st being the gateway to the best time of the year in my personal opinion. But here to talk about the weather, the first thing we will discuss is the tropics. We'll go over all the latest model guides, talk about current observations, the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We're not going to go much into sea surface temperatures, upper wind patterns, steering currents in this video. We're just going to kind of give you the basic information from the model guides and then get you guys on your way. After we get done doing that, we will discuss what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for your Sunday, and then we'll be done here. I will tell you, that model guidance has kind of dropped off from this area of interest we've been talking about like crazy over the last several days. The signal is still there, but I think, just the next 1 or 2, maybe even 3 days is going to tell the story with this system. And I can tell you this morning, it doesn't look very impressive. So the environment conditions out ahead of this system would support a tropical cyclone. It's just, is it going to get its act together in the shorter term? We hope it doesn't, because if it can, then it's going to hit somebody. So with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you notice, I'm a little bit low energy this morning. It's because I had a long day yesterday, a pretty long night. Ended up going to a football game last night. Just got home a little bit late, so just feeling a little tired this morning. But we're gonna make our way through this video. If you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. I am very behind on comments. I need to get caught up sometime today, and I think I'll have a little bit of time to do so. With that being said, let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is the entire Atlantic Basin. What are we looking at out here? Well, we got a couple areas that we need to watch for, and of course, this is the main one, even though it does not look impressive at all. I mean, there's many other areas I can circle that looks more impressive than this, but believe it or not, this first circled area that I drew, this is our area of interest that we were watching. Now we're still watching this area too that has a little bit of a spin to it that could develop sometime in the next 7 days, a very low chance to do so, a 20% shot to do so. And then we're watching just energy. I'm just going to circle a large area, just energy out here in the eastern Atlantic coming off Africa. Really anything that has an opportunity to come off Africa will at least have a shot to develop. But I'm going to tell you overall, it's very wild that it's September 1st, hyperactive hurricane season predicted, and there is nothing, no named storm out there, no tropical cyclone, no tropical depression, certainly no hurricanes out here. We're pretty much fully in a peak hurricane season. Don't let anybody tell you any different. I'm just being straight up with you. Some people will say, well, we still got about 10 days before peak hurricane season. Folks, we're in peak hurricane season right now. I mean, I'm just going to keep it real with you. And it's pretty wild that we're not seeing anything. Now, we got the entire month of September and October right ahead of us. And so you guys know we can get hurricanes in October, especially you folks in Florida, the Gulf Coast. You guys know we definitely can get them. So this isn't Mitch saying, hurricane season is a wrap, it's done. I'm just saying as of right now, it's pretty wild. The Atlantic is pretty void of consolidated convection, but it is. So those are the 3 areas we're kind of watching, which are typical areas we are normally paying attention to this time of the year. If we continue to move forward here, let's see if we have a new update from the National Hurricane Center. We do not, so the next update will come out in about 30 to 45 minutes, but as of right now, it still has this area that I have my cursor over at a 40% chance to develop into a depression or a named storm sometime in the next 7 days. The actual, beginnings of this system is right here where this orange X is. And like I said, expected to develop not between here and here, but in this area has that 40% chance to develop in the next 7 days. We still got this 20% chance to develop sometime in the next 7 days, just this area of convection and tropical activity. And then this area right here, really tucked into the northwestern portion of the Gulf of Mexico, has a 20% chance to develop within the next 7 days also. So we're just watching a few different areas. Our main area keeps bouncing back and forth from a 40 to a 50 back to a 40. It's just because the model guides keeps bouncing back and forth. We think that we have a handle on this, and then we don't, and then we think we do, then we don't. It just tells you that it's all real-time observations really on what's going on with this system right this moment. So let's go over all the latest model guides that we have from overnight. So it's going to be hard to follow on your screen because it's going to be so weak over the next several days, and it might stay weak. But what we're watching is right here. Okay, I know I drew that pretty big, but right in the middle of this, right here in what we call the Eastern Caribbean. All right, I'm going to get this back off. I'm going to get this in motion. Just kind of keep your eye on this blob of green here, or lack of blob of green. We get into Tuesday morning. We get into Wednesday morning. You barely can see anything. I would say you could see it pretty good. You see this more distinct green, dark green, even pockets of yellow. That is where our tropical wave is, cruising through the Central Caribbean. This continues, brings some shower and storm activity to Jamaica, maybe as far north as Hispaniola, Cuba, etc. And this continues. We're getting all the way to Thursday afternoon. We're getting all the way to Friday morning. It's somewhere right in here in the Western Caribbean. And I really think that if this thing can somehow survive across the whole entire Caribbean this week, I think it does have a shot more so in the Western Caribbean, which, is in this area right here. I don't think it has much of a shot before then, but we'll see. And, it tries to develop right before it hits the Yucatan Peninsula, and then just brings a lot of shower and storm activity to you guys. And then this tries to sneak into the Bay of Campeche. Now, I can tell you guys, one thing that's, I would say, an influence on maybe the steering of this is it's pretty wild, the consistency we are seeing with some sort of massive stalled out front. Where is it going to stall out? We're not sure. Is there going to be a trough or a cold front? Yes. And you can see it pretty well right here. Okay, you see how we got green right into here? All right, that circled area, and then you get a distinct cutoff right in here. There is some sort of big cold front just kind of oozing its way down south. And I'm going to show you what that means actually back home in the lower 48 here in a second. Because at the very end of the video, we're going to talk about how we have I wouldn't say a substantial, but a pattern that has some longevity to it that's going to support below average temperatures for a good chunk of the central and eastern U.S. It's pretty wild. I would say the weather is just weird out there. It's going to get kind of weird over the next several days, and I'm not talking about a major hurricane hitting the Gulf states, just abnormal a little bit for, I would say, the entire first half of September. We typically don't get below average temperatures for an entire half a month, but there's the possibility that we could. And I just realized Kylo, my very curious cat, is in here, and he is just going to move around like crazy. He's not like my other cats that will just chill in one spot. So I'm just going to keep rolling here. So if you see a black cat pop up, it's just one of my mini cats that I have currently. So, but we keep this rolling. Basically, the Euro, guys, as we're getting into next Saturday, does not develop anything. Never develops anything. So, yeah, the GFS, what about the latest GFS from this morning? Now, same thing. You would keep your eyes down here in the Caribbean. Nothing's developing. We're getting into Thursday. Nothing's developing down here in the Caribbean. Friday, nothing. Saturday, nothing. Sunday, absolutely nothing. And listen, the latest morning GFS does not develop anything. Nothing. It's pretty wild stuff, guys. Now, I'm going to back this all the way up, and we're going to flip it to the overnight GFS run. Watch how dramatically different this is from this morning's run to last night's run. This is last night's run. Watch. Keep your eyes down here. All right, we keep this going, and there it is, forming right there in the Western Caribbean, which makes sense. Quickly develops into a tropical storm about a week from today. Develops into a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico about 8 days from now, and then it's a major hurricane, and then crashes into the Gulf coastline literally about 10 days from now. All right, and the crazy 18Z run did the same exact thing. landfalling hurricane along the Gulf coastline as a category 4-ish, 5-ish hurricane. Okay, but then you turn around and you flip it to the morning run, absolutely nothing. So we're just getting a lot of back and forth. Watch out what you see on social media with the GFS posted guys. Just all I would say is you can't do nothing about them posting it. It's more of you as the viewer. Don't, and I'm not saying that, it's not a big deal that they post it. I mean, I don't believe in doing it. I normally, on my social media platforms, I normally keep things about a week out. Now, on social media, I'll go way far out. I mean, this is just my channel. I can discuss it. We're just going to have fun here, and I'm going to make sure I provide context and just tell you guys to not believe everything you see. But on social media, you just got to be careful. Everything goes viral very fast. And if you see a big giant hurricane if you're in like Mississippi or Louisiana over your state, don't tell everybody and every single family member that you got that a hurricane's going to hit at such and such day. This is just long range model, guys. So just remember that. Now the Icon model, latest one from this morning. What do we got? Oh, my curious black cat is just all over the place. I can hear him just rumbling through. His name's Kylo, by the way. If you're a Star Wars fan, then you understand Black Cat, Kylo. Anyways. But we keep going here. We get into Tuesday, nothing on the Icon. Wednesday, nothing. Remember, keep your eyes here. There is a blob of green, shower and storm activity. We get into Thursday. That energy is in the Western Caribbean. We get into about Friday morning, and nothing develops on the Icon. Remember, the Icon was kind of gung-ho about something getting going. What about the Canadian? It has the energy here. Wednesday, Thursday, develops this into a tropical storm, hits Belize, the Yucatan Peninsula, gets over the Yucatan Peninsula, starts to develop again in the Bay of Campeche about 6.5, 7 days from now. I can tell you the Canadian run is a lot faster, and then does make landfall as a strong tropical storm, maybe low-end hurricane, into the Mexico coastline. So, that's a scenario, I guess you would say. Now, what about the European ensemble guidance? What does it show? Well, it's substantially different, I would say. It really lags on developing this. I would say in the short to medium term, it's really dropped off in model guidance. We only have a few members down here now compared to the many members we were seeing just 24 hours ago. But finally, you start to see more L's pop off. And if you're wondering what we're looking at, European ensemble or either the EPS, it makes up 51 members. If a certain amount of those 51 members develop into a decent in strength low pressure, then it's going to show an L on this specific output. So you notice there starts. I cannot talk this morning to save my life. There starts to become a lot more L's here in the Western Caribbean. So if it's going to develop, like I said, I do think it's going to take it cruising across the entire Caribbean all the way into the western portion of it before it does. But then it runs into land issues, which typically is the Yucatan Peninsula in this case. But you notice you're not getting many members that are getting into this portion right here where they can slip into the Gulf of Mexico. And you ask why? Well, that's because this doesn't strengthen much in the Western Caribbean in time. If it was to strengthen in this area, say to a tropical storm hurricane, then it would probably want to gain latitude and probably turn faster, but it does not. And some of these members do. Like, for example, one of the strongest members is right here. And notice it is it's the furthest northeast member, and it's because it gets stronger and it turns. But most of these just kind of get lost in the Bay of Campeche. Now, if you keep this going, some of them start to get pretty strong in the Bay of Campeche. But this only goes out 10 days. Now, it looks like this signal on this wave behind this is beginning to get stronger after weakening for a couple days, so we'll have to watch that. But you see all these L's out here. This is for the wave behind it, but it's looking like that might turn out to sea. Of course, we don't know for sure, but it looks like it is. So, folks, that's all I got on the tropics. I'm not going to dive into steering currents and all that. I think we just need to kind of back up a little bit on that and see if something's going to form. But yeah, going to take a break on that in this video. Just not a whole lot of point in discussing that because we got to see if this thing's even going to form, because right now confidence has now dropped that it will form. But of course that could change by the time, if we get another video out this evening, that could change by the time we do an evening video. It certainly could. So the US this morning is pretty darn quiet. There's not a whole lot going on. The central US is quiet. The western US is quiet. There's a little bit of rain. There was a lot of rain delays yesterday in the college football games. I know mine was delayed. My Gamecocks played Old Dominion. And by the way, goodness. Man, I know my team looked like poop. I'll tell you that. I don't know about yours. But I know I feel bad for my Florida Gator fans. Yeah, I could get, it's on a football channel, so I don't want to get too lost into that, but I know there was a lot of rain delays. I know the West Virginia Penn State game got delayed big time. So but anyways, you know, we got a lot of moisture off the coastline of Louisiana. We got a lot of moisture, you know, hanging out off the coastlines of Florida. We got moisture here across the southern Alps, but not just a little light shower activity. We got this blob of showers and heavy rain kind of moving out of Ontario into Quebec. A little bit of rain here in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, but like I said, all in all, pretty quiet. And you know, it's reflected by this too, the watches, warnings, and advisories. The only thing that I'm seeing is some heat advisories up there in the Pacific Northwest, but check out everybody else. Now, it doesn't mean that you might not have some sort of alert, but you know, because on this, it doesn't always show everything, but in general, guys, it's a pretty quiet start to our Sunday. Excessive rainfall outlook, just a marginal risk here. A couple areas, I mean, even the flooding risk is actually even dropped down here for the Gulf coastline, so that's good. But no slight risk of excessive rainfall, nothing too extreme to worry about. Now, the Storm Prediction Center, there is a pretty large marginal risk that covers some highly populated areas, pretty much up the I-95 corridor, all the way up to Rhode Island, Connecticut, all the way down to Atlanta, Georgia, Columbia, Charlotte, Raleigh, everything. Kylo. Sorry, guys. Dark green, level 1 to 5, marginal risk. Just for some gusty winds, maybe a little bit of hail, but I would say gusty winds are the biggest concern with this. Nothing too extreme, no severe weather outbreaks or anything like that. Now, we continue to move forward, and we do break down the southeast here. Just some moisture dancing around throughout the peninsula of Florida, especially from, I would say, Gainesville Point south. You get down to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Myers. I mean, you guys are going to get a lot of shower and storm activity today. Then we got this area over here in Louisiana, areas of Texas. You'll just continue to get rounds of tropical moisture into the same areas that's seen it over the last several days. And then you see this area right here across the Alps. This is where we could get some of these storms to hit strong to severe limits, and we're going to zoom into that area here in a second. This will have a little bit more flow to it. Florida, just scattered activity, just tropical activity. Could dump a lot of rain in certain areas. Frequent lightning is always a big concern in Florida. But just taking a closer look at my friends here across the southern Alps region, any of these storms, for example, this is pretty early in the day. I think they're going to fire up pretty fast. 1 to 2 p.m. Storms in eastern Kentucky, storms across West Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and then they'll have an opportunity to kind of cruise east to almost southeast. And you know, Charlotte could eventually get some storms. Greenville, Spartanburg, some storms out here in eastern North Carolina. Storms are possible in Florence, Huntsville, Alabama, into the Cumberland Plateau. Pop-ups down here in northern to central Georgia. And then I think a lot of this activity will make it all the way to like central South Carolina, maybe all the way to Augusta a little bit later this evening. In fact, you know, what's wild is, you know, as we're getting to around midnight, 1 a.m., the storms get quite intense here in the Sandhills of North Carolina down to the Midlands of South Carolina. So it's certainly something we need to watch for later tonight. Now, the Northeast, it's pretty quiet, guys. Not a whole lot to really discuss. Some storms could rumble through West Virginia once again. Could get some storms in that along that I-95 corridor this afternoon to this evening. We could get a little weather that creeps into the interior New England region, but that's about it. And look, you got some storms trying to bubble up here in the Delmarva, the Tidewater area for like well after midnight tonight. And you guys could be dealing with some storms kind of waking you guys up for your Monday morning, for you folks down here in like the Tidewater, Maryland, stuff like that. So the south central U.S., just tropical moisture, pretty much eastern Texas. I mean, we're going to get some storms that are possible in southwest Texas. Some tropical downpours can make it all the way up into Arkansas, southeastern Oklahoma. Downpours all across Louisiana possible, all the way up into Mississippi. As you can tell, they're just kind of sweeping on through, and then we get into the overnight hours, and you're going to get some storms that could potentially kind of hug the Texas coastline. This big plume of moisture out here in western Texas. Also some storms, Odessa, Midland, all the way up to Lubbock. Could get some storms like after midnight tonight, certainly possible. And then we get into tomorrow, and we could get some much needed rain that could fall sort of in central to west central Texas tomorrow for your Labor Day. So the north central U.S., looks like a beautiful day expected. Nice Sunday. We get into this afternoon, high pressure moving in, maybe some pop-up downpours in central Ohio. But it's pretty nice out here. There's not really a whole lot to discuss. So enjoy your Sunday out west. Kind of the same similar deal. We're going to get some scattered, I would say very isolated more so, downpours really. Utah, Arizona, Nevada. I mean, you could get a pop-up downpour, but folks, I mean, I would not let that derail any plans you got out here for today. Not a big deal whatsoever. Temperatures, nice start to your September up here in the north central U.S., the upper Midwest, 60s, low 70s, Ohio Valley, 80s, Northeast, 70s and 80s, Southeast, 80s and 90s. Don't worry, the cool down is coming for you guys. And then you go out west, just about everybody's warm out west. Nobody is scalding hot, but everybody's pretty warm. In fact, it's warm enough, it's hot enough up here in the Pacific Northwest to prompt those heat advisories, so be aware of that. I will tell you, if you live in the central and eastern U.S., and even before this, the cool down is coming. This is the 6th through the 10th of September, issued yesterday. Look at this, guys. Where you see that dark green, that is where chances are pretty high. The confidence is pretty high. We have a below average temperatures on the way, centered right over the entire eastern U.S. Now, Florida is still sticking out like a sore thumb, above average temperatures, even northern Maine, but just a very comfortable pattern settling in. Now, do I think that this is going to bring like record low temperatures? I don't know about that, but it's just kind of a weird pattern, especially in the eastern U.S., where we could just get, a couple stalled frontal boundaries. It could dump a lot of rain. For example, here my friends here in the Carolinas and Georgia, if you look at your 10-day forecast, which, even I do that, just to see how the Weather Channel app correlates to what actual model guidance shows. Like in my neck of the woods in Columbia, it shows after Tuesday of this week, highs in the low 80s, but the lows are not very cool. I mean, they're like in the mid 60s. So, I just think it's going to be more so driven off a daytime high thing rather than a low temperature thing. So I hope that makes sense. But above average temperatures expected, unfortunately, for you folks out west. I would say, unfortunately, for people who don't want to be above average. But man, this is crazy. And then you go all the way through, folks. I mean, the 14th of September. This is pretty. You might as well call that mid-September. Confidence in below average temperatures remain. Confidence of above average temperatures remain out west. So pretty wild stuff, folks. And I'm going to do this on the fly just because we got a little bit of time to burn here. Let's look at the European ensemble. Go back to the OOZ here. Let's look at temperature anomalies right here, and we're going to extend this all the way to Wednesday. Check out how the below average temperatures kind of creep into the south. And the thing is we'll probably have a moderation of temperatures sometime late next week, like across the Ohio Valley in the middle of the country. And then another cold front pushes through. And this is when it could get downright chilly. Maybe next weekend across the Midwest. I mean, that green you see there, that is temperatures that are 10 to 15 degrees below average. And that air mass could eventually settle in to the eastern U.S. So this is pretty interesting stuff. And it just lingers around, guys. So after we, if you're living in the southeast of South, it's very hot, humid. I think after we get over the next few days, some changes are on the horizon for sure. So that's all I got, guys. I'll continue to keep you updated on the tropics and all that good stuff. So God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful Sunday, and I'll talk to you again soon.